Hello, my name is Maggie Rigsby, and today I will be presenting my research on Harry Harlow. To begin, some biography and background information. According to research from the National Academy Press, Harry Frederick Israel was his full name at birth, which he ended up changing his last name later on in his future. He was born to Mabel Rock and Elizano Harlow Israel. He had 3 brothers, and he was the third out of 4th. He was born October 31st from 1905 to December 6, 1981. He was a member of the Methodist Church, and he was born and raised in his hometown, Fairfield, Iowa. Moving on, some education and training. So his first university experience was only 1 year, and he attended Reed College in Portland, Oregon. He only went there for 1 year because he took an aptitude test that granted him admissions to Stanford University. This gave him a boost in his career, and it gave him an overall head start. At Stanford University, he first started to major in English, and after receiving various bad grades, he switched his major to psychology because he was very intrigued at an introductory psychology class he took. And as soon as he changed his major, he started excelling in his classes, and he eventually earned his Bachelor of Arts degree in 1927, and then receiving his PhD degree in 1930. According to Vasilido, research says advisors suggested that he change his name because his old name, Harry Israel, they thought it sounded Jewish, and because of the time being around World War II, they did not want him to face any anti-Semitic bias towards any jobs coming up. So they suggested that he change his name, which he did to Harlow once he got his PhD in 1930. And then as a graduate student, he helped Calvin Stone study the behavioral system of rats, and this is where he really found an interest for primatology. He initially wanted to be a comparative psychologist, so this is why he initially studied rats. And then his teaching career started when he accepted a professorship at Wisconsin University in 1930 after he received his PhD. And he spent a long time of his career at this university. He stayed there till 1930 until he retired in 1974. He became a very, very highly respected professor because of his longevity and his highly adequate teaching methods. There was no laboratory, so he started his practice soon, which got shut down because he did it underneath a dean's office, and people started complaining about the odor of the rats, so then he was gifted a 2-story smaller building. However, this building was still not adequate for the space that he needed to analyze and break down all of the data from his laboratory experiments. Because of this, not having a fulfilling laboratory, one of his co-workers' wives suggested that he study at the Vilas Park Zoo. This zoo offered different opportunities to study different primates and different breeds of monkeys such as orangutans and baboons. According to Gluck, Harlow created the first primate laboratory in Wisconsin Department of Psychology. His work was centered around maternal deprivation. He created fake surrogate mothers for the baby monkeys. One was made from wire and the other was from terry cloth. He gave them time after birth to recognize their faces and get familiar with them to prefer their face over someone else's. And in this image, we have a photo of the wired surrogate mother and a cloth surrogate mother. And then you can see the monkey is gravitating towards the cloth mother. What were his findings? So, in the first experiment, he decided to isolate the monkeys from their mothers immediately after birth, and he placed them in cages with access and opportunities to both of the material surrogate mothers. Even though the terry cloth mother did not have food or nurturement, it still was the main source of reliement for the monkeys. They still always went to the cloth mother. They only traveled to the wire surrogate mother for food, and then they immediately resurfaced back. According to McLeod, cloth surrogates were more effective in decreasing the monkeys' fears. For example, when the cloth surrogates were present, the monkeys would go out and about and explore more. According to the Association for Psychological Sciences, in 1958, he revised his experiment by congregating the monkeys into two different groups, one being one control group having the cloth mother with no food, and then the other one, the wired mother, had food. And his findings were basically the same. All monkeys traveled to the cloth mother and only went to the wired mother for food. And the only findings that were any different were the distinct behavioral differences between the monkeys that were with the wired mothers for more than 90 days. Some of the differences were they were harder to mate, they couldn't socialize, and they couldn't stick up for themselves, and they were like easy accessible to bullying. How did Harry Harlow's work contribute to psychology? According to McLeod, he was the first researcher to provide evidence emphasizing that primates relied on comfort more than food, water, sex, or anything like that to develop attachment from their mothers. He also confirmed the idea that there is a critical period within early development that sparks an infant's adult upbringing. If this early period they are not reaching the amount of attachment with their mother, then they will grow up to be probably anxiously attached, etc. He created the Wisconsin General Test apparatus on instrumental, which is an instrumental machine used to standardly test the monkey's level of intelligence. This testing method was used to look in the prefrontal cortex of the monkey to see if there were any demodifications about the monkey's brain, and this is still a widely used test among psychologists today. Lastly, his research heavily influenced the background of attachment theory and gave them a better insight on the importance of caregiving, nurturement, and relationships in social and cognitive development. How did the Zeitgeist of the times shape his career? As a result of being in the early stages of the Depression, there were not many financial opportunities for grants and funding to kick in, so this caused him to not really have a laboratory for a long time. And then behaviorism was the main driving force of psychology, so Harlow challenged that idea by saying that people should look at the emotional bonds and interactions, and that's research from Verlag. And there were possible ethical issues raised in his research, so that did shape his career. And then some formal accomplishments. He was gifted the Warren Medal for a sense of brilliancy, and he also served as the president of the APA Association. And then lastly, how does it relate to current and future Zeitgeists? So, child psychology will always be based around nurturement and attachment. So, this is a subject that will continue to be relevant in current and future issues in psychology. His relationship in early infants development has influenced the importance of good parenting and attachment theory. His emphasis on caregiving remains prominent in psychological subparts like child psychology, trauma interventions, and therapy. He helped elaborate a foundation for the study of primatology and attachment. And overall, according to the Association for Psychological Sciences, his thesis was centered around the importance of emotional bonds and social interactions, which is a very widely common element in child psychology today. And here's my reference page, and then here's my other reference page. Thank you for listening.